Welcome to the Tonya Hoffman's fabulous TV show. I am Tonya Hoffman, and as always, the reason it's so fabulous, I have incredibly fabulous guests like our incredible guest star today, CieCie Nguyen. Hey, CieCie.
Hi, Tonya. I'm so glad to be here.
Yay! So we're going to find out how amazing she is, and oh my gosh, her story is going to blow you away, and her book and everything. But before we get into it, remember to go to Public Speakers with an S Association, all spelled out.com, and get involved today so that we can help you go out and change the world from the front of the room. So again, Public Speakers with an S Association, all spelled up.com, and find out more. And we are a global organization, so get involved. All right, so CieCie, tell us about your book and how fabulous you are.
Well, it's about the war. Then I started the book. It's about the end of the Vietnam War, with chaos, confusion, and turmoil, and escalated to the collapsing of the Vietnamese Republic, and then the life under the communist regime for 3 years, and then escaping to Malaysia, and then living in Australia. So it started in 1975, and then it ended at the present time.
Wow.
So it's a long story. Yes, it is a long story. At first, when I first started writing, I thought that I was doing the right thing, but the more I think about it, the more I start to wonder, because it seems like I'm reminding people, the American GIs, my Vietnamese people, and most of all the Vietnamese government, something that they rather forget. It's a taboo subject somehow to me that no one really is interested in, because Vietnam War is just like a naughty child that the parents rather not talk about it in public, but whisper in sorrow how they could have changed it, the situation. And for the Vietnamese people, the story are so painful to be reminded. And for the Vietnamese government, I think I'm bringing in up the subject um, that telling people that of so many mistakes that it made during the critical periods from 1975 until 1989, 14 years after they received South Vietnam. They made mistakes after mistakes that led to 1.2 million Vietnamese people left to search for freedom out to sea. They rather choose death or drown at sea rather than living in their own country. And out of that 1.2 million, which believe Tonya, is almost 500,000 people drowned. That according to UNHCR, and that's terrible. So in the Vietnam War, actually, from what I've learned, there were 58,000 American in Kashmir died in the war. Um, 1 million of the North Vietnamese troops, 250,000 South Vietnamese soldiers, 2 million civilians. So added all that in with 500,000 or that the numbers is about 4 million.
Wow.
In the 21 years war, then to 1989, I think, with the exodus of the Vietnamese boat people, that 4 millions, the figures really staggering. So
Well, and I
I
think
think
it's
it's a
really,
war that it's
yeah,
something.
and I think it's really important nowadays, especially with all the refugees from Africa and from the Middle East. This is a reoccurring theme that happens over and over again, and we really need to look at this because this is a huge subject, right?
Yes, I think war is always terrible. It brings death, atrocities, barbarism, and then destruction. Um, it's something that we rather not started, but it seems like it happened almost everywhere at the moment. It's just the fight against something that people would like to bring it up. So for us in the 70s, I think in the 20th century, the fear of communism is the one thing. But now in this 21st century, the fear of terrorism is the second thing. And I truly hope that we wouldn't be taken by both communism or terrorism. Those are two things that somehow that controlling our life in many years for my life, and now it's continuing to the next generation for the 21st century. We're still fighting for something that involving death and belief. So I don't know
Yeah.
how. I don't know how we actually, yeah, avoiding it. Would you have anything that to make people change their mind to live in peace? Because I believe that my whole life, almost my childhood, which was very much with images of war, with death, with bombs, with fire, with threats of everything. And when I started to escape, and then when I arrived to Australia, when when I was in the boat, when I just stepped on the island in the refugee camp, which I believe it's a very basic camp with everything's very basic, but I felt so happy, so relieved that
Yeah.
I had peace, that I had freedom. So
Yeah.
I would love to to ask people who actually had that kind of feeling, if they're living in peace in a peaceful country now, preserve it, preserve peace, because there's no such thing as war bringing happiness. It doesn't bring happiness. It it had brought too much chaos and sadness and griefs.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is about how can we all keep things like this from happening. And I think for myself, because my friends growing up in middle school, high school were all either Vietnamese or Korean, all had come over on boats, and just to hear the horrific, trials and tribulations, most people don't even connect to people to find out their life. And I think it is about getting our messages out and connecting together, both here and international, right? I'm in the US, you're in Australia, connecting beyond our borders and letting people know so they read your book and they see and hear about these accounts. And then let's take it even further. Like you've been an amazing, support there in Australia, being the president of several, Vietnamese communities, a women's
Thank you.
community,
Yeah.
business communities. These are important things because then it showcases you and it pushes you out in the forefront, which then also brings gravity to it, right? It helps kind of lift us all up and say, we are here and you have to listen to us.
I do hope so too, because actually it's about opening up. I think for what what you're keeping inside your chest is also is the burden. And I'm so glad that I finished my book, even though that it seems to me now it's just it could be I'm reminding people something that's too painful. It's just a mistake, whatever. But I'm so glad that I had written it, and I'm so very glad also that I'm about about to finish my translated book in Vietnamese, to tell the Vietnamese in Vietnam as well the truth, because my book is about very much about the truth. It's about true life characters, entwined with my family's members' story, their experiences, my friends, people that I know. They're all true life, and it's about the truth, not the fabricated lies that the Vietnamese government actually displaying or telling people. It's also telling the world of a Vietnamese or Vietnamese in plural forms, of what we think of the war, of its failure. It's not a useless war like most people think it is, or because it's a war against communism. It's a war against something that we are afraid of, that the fear, and it's a war for freedom. It's just for us, but then because it's just it was led fatally wrong. It wasn't done correctly somehow, that we failed. So I believe it to opening up to tell people what you think. It's important to what you do believe in, and to hope people that you hope the world actually understand your meaning, your telling your stories, whatever that is. Um, in overall, connecting each one, opening up each two, explaining and trying to get people to understand your religions, your belief, your ideology, whatever that is, and then if people start to understand, and then you feel much better. You don't feel like you're actually included in a capsule that there's no touch to the world, and nobody understands you.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I
I'm
find
hoping that's
too,
my message.
right, and I love that, you know, whenever you kind of connect with other people, I love the whole fact that as I travel around the world and get to meet really fantastic people, how very similar we all are, except for we have these little nuances that makes us different. And instead of
Mm,
looking at those nuances as something bad, or I can't believe they do that or believe that, instead of just
mm.
saying that's okay, it's just so small. We're human and we all have the basic needs and loves and wants and things that we want to experience out of this one life of ours, you know, and then going on to doing amazing things. Let's help each other.
I think it's because of the inferior complex that also make people do the wrong thing. The feeling of not being heard, of being pushed, put down, of being looking down. Of course, that's what I mean. Of being unimportant, of nothing, of just even like a refugee. Like when I was a refugee, of course I was a refugee, and when I first started my life in Australia, in the book Short Piece, my book, it's also telling the story of how I was looked down. Um, First comer, first arrival. We look so different, Asian, um, and the language is totally different. The two different languages, Vietnamese and English, the whole world of different.
Right.
And so yeah, no, when you feel um low, inferior, then the 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 feeling here, the frustrated feeling is also very high. So then I think at that time in the 70s, 80s, when we first arrived, there's a lot of violence, a lot of fighting, a lot of everything from the youth, from the people who just came and they couldn't speak the language. They couldn't tell, they couldn't explain, and the behaviors were so all different. Religion different, how we dress also different, how we talk different, how we eat all different. So it's just that also bring up violence, I think, by 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 not letting people to know how you feel, and because we was a new group of immigrants.
Yeah.
We were so poor, of course we was very
Yeah.
poor refugee. We
Right.
actually have nothing to come to a new country to start, and so that's why we feel we feel very low, and that at that time there's a lot of frustration, a lot of violence that happened
Yeah.
too. And I believe that the inferior complex is also one of the things that we should avoid making other people feel,
Yeah.
especially immigrant, refugee, newcomer
Right.
who actually are just arriving to the new country. Um,
Yeah, because
we
what I really look at is, if we all, instead of looking at what makes us all different, if we switch it around and look at what makes us all the same, then we have, I think, a base to start with, and then we start treating each other the way that we would like for them to have treated us. And I think that's always the question, is how to get people to see us all as really the same, even though we have all of these little differences in the core value proposition of us. We're all wanting the same thing.
Yes, I'm sure we all want to have a happy home, a stable environment, um, happy children, happy
Hmm.
life. So the very basic thing in life is just happiness, and prosperity.
Yeah.
For us, for many of us, actually, that came naturally because your parents actually in started life in the US, and you have all that. But for many others, happiness seems to be just a very basic thing, just like a meal, a simple meal every day. And I remember in 1970 something, that 1977, when my life, I lived under the communist regime for 3 years, and during that 3 years I experienced a lot of other things. And the one thing that we I know that people only live on the daily basis. A simple meal a day is so important. You wake up in the morning and you only think of one thing: how to live on, how to have a meal to
Yeah.
fill your stomach. So they actually controlling people by the stomach. And for others, I look at my children now. They're 28, 26, 21, 18, right? They were born in Australia. They did not see life as complicated as I did see things. And I don't know whether that is the advantage or the disadvantages, because for me, I see life in many perspectives.
Right.
Life, I can see things. I can see the very high, and I can also see very low. I started my life in Vietnam was a very affluent, not really rich, not very powerful. But my father, he's a high-ranking officer in the Vietnamese government. So we actually live a happy and healthy life by traveling, by doing this and that. And then come to the end when I had nothing because they took it all. The Vietnamese government, the communist government took it all. My father bank account, my father land, pension and everything. So we actually had nothing to live on. So from then, and then escaped to a refugee camp, and then came to Australia when we had nothing. I remember when we were stepping on the plane, wearing thongs and very thin, very summery, light clothing, stepping stepping down into the airport, which in winter, and
Uh,
was freezing cold. And
oh.
then the Saint Vincent de Paul Society, the charity society, came to the hostel, and they allow us to choose the second hand a bin. They let us see the bin of second hand clothing, and I was so happy just to receive
Yeah.
socks, some socks, a sweater, um, some shirts or something like that, and I was so happy. The
Yeah.
very basics that I received when I need,
Yeah, I
the
love that.
very simple thing that I have when I had nothing. And
Yeah.
I remember that for even even now, that how warm and how helpful and how good those people are to me,
Right.
and extending hand when you need the most.
Yes.
So, and now my life now come to the stage when I have everything back to me, and I have to be thankful to Australia, the Australian people, or the free world actually are so kind. So at first I felt angry and upset because they looked down on me, of course. But now when I think back, I said, of course, because at that time we were so strange.
Right.
We were a group of strange people who arrived and looking so different.
Exactly.
But
So
if we actually,
how do they get a hold of your book?
how? Oh well, I can well, Thai publishing company collapsed, so the printed version now not available. But I still have some books that I can to send it to people if they can to give me the address, so I can send them. Or also they have can have the Kindle version in Amazon.com, and
Awesome. And what's it
search in the
called?
name of Shark Piece. Sorry, sorry,
Chalk
Tonya.
Piece.
Yeah, Sock Piece, The Search for Freedom, or just Sock Piece by CieCie Nguyen, and you will see that the Kindle version. Yeah, if they want a printed copy, then eventually I might have to have a self-published version coming soon. But at the moment, the Kindle version, or I can get or send it to my email address, and I can get people from America to send it away, because I got a 100 or 200 books store in the French house. So
You have
he
a version to show us?
this one.
There it is. All right, everyone. So go
It,
get your Kindle version, Shock Piece. You definitely want to grab that. And then get in touch with CieCie, and she's got a few hundred books. You can grab them all. So why not? And so how do they get a hold of you, CieCie?
well, my email will be sharkpiece.2015@gmail.com.
Perfect. So shockpiece.2015@gmail.com. So grab
Yes,
a
that's
hold of
right.
some copies and get in touch with her, and then
Yeah,
help
or
her get this message
Amazon.com.
out.
Yeah.
Yes, it is Amazon also, and help her
Yeah.
get this word out. This is something that's huge. We all need to support her and her mission, because again, it's about it's continuation over and over and over again, and we need to make people, help them not feel like, like she was saying, a secondhand citizen, that they are just as important even though they're a refugee. So let's all get behind people and just help them have a fantastic life. That sound good to you, CieCie?
Yes, yes, I think so very much that what I'm trying to convey. But I also wish all the refugee in the world that I know that their journey is very much in misery and all that. And my story might not be much compared to their story, their real tragedies. But I think in the journey that also help them. It's a strong foundation for the future. It's something that to remind them to how to step up, to become good, to become a, like now I'm the person who I am. I'm a pharmacist, registered pharmacist in New South Wales, and I just recently sold my pharmacy, and I'm now in semi-retiring, and I'm happy with my life, and that is the message I would like all the refugees in the world to think. The journey could be a terrible journey with all the heartache, with all the atrocity, barbarism that you dare not think about. But it's also, to me, I believe, a strong foundation to be reminded that yes, we've been through that terrible time, but we can make it better. We
Thanks.
can be positive and step one step at a time to achieve what we would like to achieve. So don't lose it. Go on,
Perfect.
keep being positive. That's my
Yay!
message.
Keep going and becoming positive. I love
Yes, keep
that.
going. Yes, exactly. Keep going, one step at a time. Yeah, don't
Exactly.
think of it too far, too long, or too difficult. But just one step at a time, you get there.
Perfect.
Slow,
All righty,
fast,
everybody.
whatever.
Right.
Thank you.
Go. Yay. Get a hold
Thank
of
you,
CC
Tonya.
immediately. Go grab her book on Amazon and start, a movement where we are all one enormous, fabulous world of fabulous people. So thank you,
Yes.
CC. Thank you, everybody. See you next time
Thank
on
you,
the Tonya
Tonya.
Hofmann Show.